And now, a word from our sponsors. The Oyster Recovery Partnership is the nonprofit expert in Chesapeake Bay oyster restoration. Oyster Recovery Partnership has planted more than 9 billion oysters on 3,000 acres of reef and recycled more than 250 bushels of shell. Everyone benefits from a healthy Chesapeake Bay. Poor water quality and declining habitats can be reversed. Oysters are the answer. Pescavore is packaged in a convenient, single-serving size with no refrigeration required until after opening. Pescavore is the perfect, healthy, and delicious snack for those on the go. Pescavore, tuna that travels. Hey, what's going on, good people? It's Gardner Douglas, your Oyster Ninja. I'm here today with Miss Sue Wicks from Cove Oysters. And I think you're going to be excited about this conversation. I hope you are. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm loving it. Sue, how are you?
Loving it. How are you? It's so great to finally connect face to face. I've been following you on Instagram, and obviously we're in the same industry, oyster lovers, and people are always saying great things about you. So I'm so excited to be on your podcast and have this combo.
It's good to be in great conversation. Yeah, so just tell me a little bit about your oyster farm and how you got into it.
So, I grew up, my dad was on the water, and I would go out on the boat with him. And when I was a little girl, I just loved it. It was something, we did as kids, and it was obviously recreational that we were doing it, but watching our father do it, we knew that that's how he earned a living and that's how we lived. And his love and his respect for the bay and where he worked was just something that I watched as a child, but he also just let us have it as well, that here's the bay, this is yours, and enjoy it. And that has stayed with me my entire life. My love of this local Long Island Bay, where I grew up from 5 or 6 years old, digging for clams with my dad, even out in the winter, scallops, crabbing, whatever it was, on the boat with my father in that really basic human occupation of hunter-gatherer. I loved every part of it. I loved watching my dad just used his wits, his understanding of the environment, and all these different things to earn a living. That is part of Long Island heritage that's very diminished now. There's few real baymen left. And when I grew up, there was just such colorful characters that were independent, they made themselves and they worked hard every day. And that type of American, that type of even small business, but doesn't exist. It's so hard to have a job like that you're out there doing this thing and that you love. And for me, it was always so precious, something even as a child, I knew there was something magical about it. My father was doing something different than other people's dads. And the love of nature and the respect of nature was always there. And it was majestic for me. Those landscapes, those skies, the sea, those smells, those are indelible in my memory. My whole life, I moved through life. Obviously, not obviously, but I went to college and I was a professional basketball player. I lived in Europe and Asia for almost 20 years. I played professional basketball in Madison Square Garden. And all of this time, all of these great journeys I'm going on, in the back of my head, like my safe space, that place of serenity is always that bay. And in that time, I'm doing all of this. We had a catastrophe here on Long Island with the brown tides. And my father was basically, what he had done since he was 12 years old was gone. He moved to North Carolina and did a little oystering and clamming down there. But to earn a living in the 80s and early 90s on Long Island, it was finished. And that is hundreds of years of, even my personal family history was gone. That the story there, it would be the first time in 300 years that there wasn't a Wicks family person working on the water, when my father was the last. And there was something very sad about that. Aquaculture was just in the beginning in the 90s here on Long Island in the early 2000s, and conventional wisdom said that it couldn't be done. That was it. That oysters are done, clams are done, and I retired from basketball. I sold a company I was running, and I came back to Long Island, and my brother said, "Hey, there's a guy that has an oyster farm right in our hometown." So I called him up, asked him all the information about how to be an oyster farmer. And he said, "Well, come on down and see if you like it." And I got to work on his farm, Great Gun Farm, Paul McCormick, great oysterman here on Long Island. And he said, "Put in your applications. It's going to take a minute." So he goes, "If you decide to do it or not, get this up rolling." So I did. And then it took a minute, but I got my farm. I started in 2018. And let's all admit that the times have not been easy these last few years. There's lots of stuff going on, but it's been a fantastic journey. It's been one of the highlights, certainly one of these feelings in life, like, oh my gosh, I'm doing what I should be doing. This is magical. This feels great.
You're definitely painting a picture of a magical portrait. Like I'm seeing all of, like I'm seeing, growing up as a kid, watching your dad really get hands on with, working the water and working aquaculture, and then traveling the world. But the whole time in the back of your head, I'm like, you know what? I got my retirement plan. and then
But the funny thing is, I don't think there wasn't a possibility. It lived in nostalgia. It lived in the past. It lived in a part of, it's gone forever. And so, yeah, like it was a safe memory space, and that it was reborn, a new version, 2.0 aquaculture. We're going to do it a different way. And we're going to try and do it better this time. You can't do it better than Mother Nature, but we're going to do it until she takes back over again.
Well, what do you think, just from what you knew as a young person and now as having your own farm, what are some of the major differences, the way your dad did it and the way you're doing it?
So my father had, and there's a few baymen here, I could never learn all of those things that they know, all of the things that are just second nature to them, all the things they just feel in their blood, in their bones, meaning, oh, the wind just shifted. It's time to go home. And they're like, why? And then, 5 minutes later, you got a thunderstorm on top of you. That's why, you can't, here's where clams are. Here's our crabs are. Here's the time of the season that they're coming. Here's where, some people could never find a clam, not even in the clam shop, but these guys just have a nose for it because they understand the bottom of the bay. They understand how the clams, spawn and where the seeds set and so they know, so all those magical things that they know about how the life moves, the cycle of life in here, and what to take out of the water and what to leave. And that is really one of the hallmarks of the bayman, the small enterprise. And I'm not talking about industrial fishing that's overfished and has no conscience about sustainability. I'm talking about that person that's out there like, I'm going to be here tomorrow and the next day. This clam goes back. These female crabs go back. This you don't touch. This ecosystem we don't dredge on. We don't do these things. All of those things that are just built into the DNA of someone that is out there earning a living, one person, just trying to make it day by day living. And they don't exist, there's just a few. So all of these things, even boat maintenance, my father would say that, and Howard Pickrell, who built my boat, said, don't bring this boat to the boat shop. It's your job now to know every part of your boat, to know your boat intimately, because basically when you're out there, it's you and that boat. That's how your safety right there. So those type of things, like who knew I'm going to be doing small motor mechanics at this stage of my life when I've never changed the oil in my car. And now I have to do these things because it really is. It's not driving a car. When you're on a boat, that is a different situation, especially in the middle of the winter. There is no sea tow. There's no pleasure boats. There's nothing going on. I mean, it's very, you're not going to see anybody. You better know how to take care of your boat and take care of yourself. So those being really self-sufficient and the confidence you get when like, oh, I know how to do that. I can do that. I can do these things. So even for me, who was a very independent woman who lived on her own in Europe and stuff, to go out in the water and trust that you maybe can fix your engine or you understand drifts, currents, that you can, at least keep yourself alive. I have a very safe bay. I'm not going out ocean fishing or anything like that, but just those small things that you have to know. So they had a different, certainly my father and his colleagues had a different career path and a different, with my oyster farm, here's my inventory. I need to harvest this many today. With my father, it's like blind going out there. I hope that there's clams. I hope that my traps are full. I hope this. And it's, trying to keep that consistent, income to sustain a family. With me, it's like, I have a harvest. I have a log. I know what's out there.